Hello, Julie here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So happy you could join me here today. If you're already a subscriber, thank you very much. If you're not, I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card that has got an uneven front top, I guess you'd say. So I think this card is called an open top card. So I'm going to start off by making my card base. I've cut a piece 10.5 inches by 5.25 inches, and I'm scoring at 5.25 inches, making a 5.25 inch card. I've also cut a piece of white cardstock that is 5 inches square. Now I'm going to use a Woodware stamp that I have. It's called 5 Daisies. It's a really nice stamp, and I use it quite a bit. Now I'm going to stamp it using my stamping platform because I want to make sure that I get a good coverage with my ink, because I'm going to heat emboss it. I'm going to heat emboss it with my clear embossing powder. I'm using actually some slightly glossy paper here for this, so I'm going to use my stamping powder, like the powder puff, and go over my paper with that to make sure that I get rid of as much static as possible. I'm trying to position my stamp so that it goes across the entire width of my 5x5 piece of white cardstock. I want it to go from edge to edge, and I'm positioning it down fairly low because, as you know, I'm going to cut the top off of this. The ink I'm using to stamp with is Versafine Onyx black ink, and I use this most of the time when I'm trying to do heat embossing with black. You can use a clear embossing ink and black embossing powder, but I find that by using the black ink and the clear embossing powder, if the embossing powder gets somewhere that you don't really want it to be and you heat it and it stays there, it's not as noticeable as black embossing that shouldn't be there. So this is the way that I prefer to use if I'm going to be doing black embossing. You can see there's a piece of white cardstock off to my right there, and that was one that I stamped with the stamp in the wrong position. So I'm going to actually use that later on, although that wasn't the plan originally. Now I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir Triblends to colour these flowers. I am not a great colourer. I have got heaps and heaps and heaps of alcohol blenders or alcohol markers, and to be honest, most of them have never been out of the box. So I bought these Triblends because I like the idea of having the 3 colours that blend well together in the one tube. I've only bought a selection because, as I say, I'm not a big colourer, so I've just bought a few to try. I'm going to use light green blend for the leaves, I'm going to use citrus blend for the flower petals, and I'm going to use gold brown shades for the flower centres. I'm not marvellous at colouring, so all I'm doing is I'm giving the leaves a coat with the light shade, then I'm putting a bit of the medium colour on, and then coming from the centre out with the dark colour. Then I am coming back with the light shade to go over the whole thing and sort of blend it all together. When I do the flowers, all I'm doing is using the darkest of the citrus blend, and I'm just pulling out strokes from the centre of the flower. For the centres of the flowers, I'm using the lightest of the gold brown shades, and then just all over, and then down around that darker area, I'm using the medium shade. So I'm going to put this on fast forward. You don't really need to watch me do this because, as I say, I'm not that good at it, and I'll come back to you when it's complete. So now I'm going to use my scissors and cut around the top of those flowers and leaves. Now there's 2 options here. First of all, I cut it with a fine white border around it, and then when I looked at it, I wasn't that keen on it, so I went back around again and cut it right down to the black embossing line. So it's completely up to you what you like, what you prefer the look of. I'm not a big fan of the white borders around anything, to be honest, whether it's stickers or, you know, those chipboard things or whatever. No, don't like the white border. But I thought I'd try it on this one because I thought it might help the front of the card stand out from the back of the card. But in the end, I didn't like it, so I went back and trimmed it right back down to the black embossing line. Time now to attach our panel to the front of our card. Now there's several ways you can do this. I just used art glitter glue and attached it straight to the card base. You can also put some foam tape or cardboard or whatever you like behind it to raise it off of the card base if you want to. But in this case I decided just to stick it straight down. So I'm going to use my art glitter glue and attach that to my card front. Time now to cut around the top of my flowers. Now you could, I suppose, attach the flowers like as a full sheet to the front of your card and then cut them both off at the same time. I never thought of that at the time, but I guess that would work. You'd at least have your cutting line would be perfect for both of them. So anyway, I never thought of that at the time, so now I'm doing the cutting the top of the card off. So you take it right, cut right up to the fold line and then cut nicely along the fold line up to the top of the card, thereby removing the top of the card panel, the front of the card panel. Now here I'm trying to decide whether to put a piece of white cardstock on the inside of my card. I hummed and hard. This is the piece that I've got behind there now is the one that I actually stamped on incorrectly. But in the end I decided that I preferred it without the white cardstock behind it. What do you think? For my sentiment, I'm going to add one of these sentiments that came out of a pack. I think they come from Uniquely Creative, I can't remember. I'll just keep all of my sentiments in a little basket, and I can't remember where they came from. So I'm just trimming that down. I'm going to mount it onto a piece of scrap cardboard and then attach it to the front of my card. So if you remember earlier on, I stamped that image on the wrong place on a card front. Well, I've fussy cut a couple of the flowers out, and I'm now going to use my art glitter glue to attach them to the inside of the card. I'm putting them so that you can't actually see them from the outside, but when you open the card, they're there. I'm not colouring these, I'm just leaving them plain black and white. So that completes my card for today. A simple card, but just a bit of fun, something a bit different, not your standard card front. And I think that when you write your sentiment in here, you could write it to the right of those flowers, or you could actually write it on the inside of the front, whichever suited you best. So yeah, thank you for joining me here today. It's been a lovely simple card to create, and I hope you give it a go. I like to make something that's a little bit different. So thank you for being here, and I hope you can join me when I post my next video. Okay, bye.